Welcome, everyone. This is First Wednesdays with Gretchen Heido, and today we're going to be talking about how to become an expert in your field and get interviewed by the media. We have a short group today, but everybody on the replay will still get whatever we share with all of you today. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Gretchen.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Master Coach Gretchen Heido, and I'm so glad that you're here tonight. For those of you who are going to listen in, this is going to be packed with great tips, so make sure that you stay until the end. So the topic on the table today is how do you become an expert in your field? And many of you know that my background is actually in PR. I was a publicist for a long time. It's going to make me sound quite old, but I was publicist for a very long time with my own public relations business. And one of the keys with getting noticed is to create expert status in an area that you are comfortable talking about. And so for those of you that are here and listening, you're coaches. And so the first thing that I want you to do is to think about a topic that really lights you up. And I'll give you some examples. So something that I have come to be known for is coaching coaches and really helping coaches to create successful sources of income revenue and to find clients in an easier way. Now, I didn't know that that was going to be the thing that I became known for when I got into coaching, nor did I know that it would be something that people asked me to speak about. But both things happened. And so what I did was I developed a series of articles. I developed a program. I developed different commentary to make me appear and to become an expert in the field. And so what I want you to see in this is that being an expert does not necessarily mean that you've got a Ph.D., although it could mean that. It doesn't have to mean that you've coached for 5,000 hours, although it could mean that. But really, it means that you have a deep love and understanding of one area or more that you are comfortable speaking about and sharing your own slant on the expertise. And the reason this is important is there's nothing new. Think about movie plots. Think about books that you read. They're all a different version of something else. Every love story, there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, and then there's the woman in the middle or whatever that might be like. Same thing when you think of action movies, good guy, bad guy, and a million plots around all of these. So it's the same thing with anything that you are going to talk about. So one thing that happens with people when they think about becoming an expert in the field is they have a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I don't know if that sounds true for you, but I know for myself, even it was like me, I don't know, should I be talking about this? But I feel like I need to be Steve Chandler. I feel like I need to have more clients. Whatever that lack is that our mind tells us. And here's the good news. It's just not true. If you have only three, that's all you need, 3 good talking points on any given subject, it's enough to elevate your status, to have your articles placed, and to create workshops and speeches. It's enough to get those as seen on Ellen, as seen on Good Housekeeping, in Good Housekeeping. It's enough to have those little badges. So we're not looking for a wealth of knowledge, although you could have that. We're looking for something small that feels malleable to you, that you can manage, and that you're really, really comfortable speaking about. So let's just pause there for a minute. I'd love to hear, and Adam and Marissa, you're going to be great participants tonight. I'd love to hear from both of you. Where do you feel like you have some knowledge that you'd be happy and willing to talk about?
For myself, I'm working towards the program that you and I are working on with parenting and just helping new dads create their legacies. So that's an area where I'm looking to increase my subject matter expertise.
Yeah, good. So it's in that area. And here's something about Adam. Adam also has a background in a certain career that he could talk about it, but it's not what he's passionate about. And so because it's not what he's passionate about, we went down that road during our coaching and we realized you don't want to talk about this at all. It's not your great love. While you can, it's not the thing that you want to be known for. And I make this distinction because we a lot of times have many golden nuggets, at least 3, in a variety of different areas, but it doesn't mean we want to be known for it. So as you're thinking about your positioning, think about, do I want to be known for this? Do I want an article out with my name on it forever on this topic? Do I want to be interviewed by the press on this? And then when people Google me, that's going to be the thing that, they find by my name. Because what can happen then is press builds on more press. You get one article, then the press looks for you in that same original article's topic. So that's why this is important too, to really think about, what do you like talking about? Marissa, what about you?
A few things come to mind in a good way. Thinking about having 3 points is not as daunting as thinking about having a whole body of work in an area. So thank you for that. The 2 that are bubbling for the top for me right now are this idea of a new definition of networking and genuine connections and relationship building, which is one of my strengths. And I coach a lot of people on it. And it's helped me to build my business. So it's part personal story, but also there's some tenets that I can help teach and engage people with.
Yes.
That's one. And then the other one is on redefining success. And this is one that I have told a little bit my story on some podcasts, and I've gotten a little bit of press, nothing oh my gosh, but a little bit, and there's traction there. And I'm excited about it because I had one career that was quite linear and got kind of tossed off the corporate ladder, as you know, Gretchen, and had to sort of rethink things, and now want to encourage people to have their own definition and how to do it, and feeling safe and excited about redefining success. So those are the 2 that are calling me for now.
And those are great. And here's something to know about this as well. This is kind of the next step when it comes to thinking about what you'd like to be an expert in. You can mind map it. So Marissa, you had a few different topics that were there. And Adam, you had the topic that, with the dad's group. When you do a mind map, and you have dad's group or one of your topics, Marissa, in the middle, you can see what the tentacles are of, okay, so what are the other things that I can talk about that are related to this topic? They're adjacent to this topic. They're a deeper layer of this topic. And what happens for you with that is you can either create a series of articles, but a lot of times they can become a workshop or a teaching series. And so it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the article or the teaching series. And really it doesn't matter because they both support each other and your bigger vision of becoming an expert in the field. And then this leads to clients. When we're thinking about who's the kind of client that I love working with, that I would love to have more of in my life, when you're mind mapping it, it becomes, oh, what are the problems? What are the solutions? And where do I fit in what I'm creating, whether it's through my articles, through my workshops, through my speeches, through my seminars, on my website content, on any PDF freebies that I give out, on mini series, these sorts of discussions. And it's always just the soundbite golden nugget that's going to help you to elevate. It only takes one good soundbite to really become an expert. You get an editor who is interviewing for, a certain topic. If you have something great to say in that, you will be surprised by how many other editors say, hey, I heard you worked with so-and-so at whatever publication, or I saw you quoted in this publication, wondering if you could give me a quote on the same thing. So PR kind of morphs. And that's the great thing with it when you're becoming an expert, because for some people, they don't enjoy public speaking. They really don't want to be in the front of the room, but they're great on paper. For other people, they're great with the public speaking. They don't want to write anything down. It's hard. And for some, they can do both. But this makes it that you can have all of it or some of it and still elevate your status. So I'm going to pause there. What's that bringing up, or questions that either of you would like to ask?
What do you see as the either differences or similarities if you're pitching for press versus pitching for speaking?
That's a great question. Which would you like to start with? Because they're different and the same. They're different. They're different, but the same. But we can talk about both.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know how. I guess it would be. I'm curious to know, like, how are they the same and how are they different, more than just like it's this or this? Because I'd be curious in pursuing maybe both routes, at least to try.
Okay. So here's the way that this happens. When you're thinking about pitching anything, this is where it's the same. We'll go with same first. It needs to have a timely hook, a timely reason that now would be appropriate for this to get published. You know, if we're thinking traditional media, some print magazines, online publications, or for you to be placed on the news, or for you to speak at an organization of some sort. Right now, we can use COVID as an example. We can, you know, a year ago we're in the middle of COVID, or COVID's just beginning, and we're in this pandemic. And now it's like, as we're coming out, hopefully, of the pandemic, here's what you should know. So that would be the angle. Let's say it's going to be the holiday season right now. Any holiday hook that you can have, five keys to reducing stress during the holiday season, 3 ways to sit to Aunt Mary by Aunt Mary at Thanksgiving, 2 ways to help you live your best life or a created future in 2022. Those are all going to get picked up right now because it's timely. You would not pitch that story in March. And so you need a timely hook, and it has to present some sort of a problem. So what's the problem? You know, one of the ones that I used to do around the holidays was, you know, how do you get along with people, your family, when you don't get along with your family, but during the holidays, you're thrown into many family events back to back to back. And what do? It got picked up everywhere, you know, because that's a problem. And then the solutions become the tips. So you embed that in your headline or in your pitch. This can be for an organization. The tips become your talking points, and in a written form, they become just the tips that the person can read and then take action on. Something to up level here. What makes your article or your pitch to an organization even better is when there's a specific action that a person can take and win at. So meaning it's so small, but it feels important enough that it's going to create value in their life, movement and momentum to help them to move forward. But it's not so big. You know, sometimes you'll read articles and the things they want you to do, you're like, well, that's nice. And it's a great idea, but you're just not going to do it because it's too big of a leap. And we know as coaches, you have to bite size. So you can lay that out, you know, you can lay that out in your presentation and in your article. Now, here's where it differs when it comes to, like, let's say a corporation, Marissa. When it's a corporation, the other way that you want to pitch it is this needs to be a return on investment for the people that are going to be participating. When we're thinking about it for publication, it needs to be enticing enough, sexy enough title that it will make people click, purchase, or buy, take an action. But when we're talking about corporations and they are going to pay for their speaker to come out, whatever they have invested in you, they need to be able to see triple, at least, in their return on investment on the participants. So when you are pitching the HR, because it's usually HR for the speakers or the programming person, you want to demonstrate your leaders are doing this now. They're in this sort of a position and this sort of a frame of mind. And by the end of my talk, workshop, seminar, they'll be here. And what studies have shown are, and then tie it in with some kind of return on investment, even if it means they take less sick days, they are happier in the workplace, that sort of thing, though, that will always help you to get much closer to a yes. There are a lot of good speaker sites as well, if you just Google them, where you can for free list yourself as a speaker with synopsises. And if you have quick synopsises of the catchy title, 3 pain points, what the person, what the corporation's going through or the attendees are going through, what you expect that they will learn, the transformation piece, and then what that will do for the company, you will get picked up far more than the people who leave that last part out. Is that what you were wondering, Marissa? Good. Adam, what about you? Do you have any questions on this?
Not yet, but definitely is sparking some ideas for me. So thank you.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. So let's talk about editors and where do you find these places to get pitched? It's interesting because there's many ways to go about this, but one of the things that to think of is, what do you read? What you read is what your target market reads. If you don't read anything, which some people don't, figure out what you might read if you were ever going to, because that's who's going to say yes to your pitch. Not every pitch, not every article belongs in the same publication. So a Huffington Post article, most of the time, does not belong in Wall Street Journal. They're just different. It's just a different flavor. Neither is right or wrong, but it's really knowing your audience, especially for the vocabulary that you're going to use, the tone, and how conversational it may or may not be. So do some reading. You also want to take a look at their editorial guidelines so that you know how long your article should be. Rule of thumb is between 500 and 750 words, and you may not promote yourself in the article. At the end, you get to have what's called a byline. And the byline is your, name and your website and your title, maybe a sentence if they give it to you. You can say things like, what I've noticed lately, a trend with my clients across the board seems to be, you can say something like that, but not in your first sentence. It needs to be lower, because right away they have to understand that you have a hot topic, it's timely, they want it because no one's pitched them anything like it yet. Make your wording stand out as well. Good vocabulary goes a long way with pitches. If your headline has a title that really has some dazzle in it, it will get picked up. The article can even be a little bit more mediocre, but if you have a good headline, it's great. Anything in the headline where you're promising 3 tips, 5 tips, that's wonderful. All of the magazines, all of the online publications, they're all looking for those sorts of things. Now, the way to find them, so you go to the magazines that you read or the online publications that you read, and then you're going to take a look at who the editor-in-chief is. You also want to look for who the editorial assistant is. Many times the editorial assistant is the one that has to go through the slush pile and read all of the pitches and decide if they're a yes or if they're a no. So that will be something that you do. Sometimes with the publications, they just have a contact form and a submission form. You can do it there as well. Do not be shy about trying to get a direct email. In PR, in becoming an expert, people who push get published. Oh, that's a good quote, Christy. We should use that one because that's just true. People who push do get published. The ones who don't, unless their thing is so sparkly and so good, they'll never even find you. They get so many submissions. Don't be afraid to follow up with a phone call and to say, hey, I sent you something over today. Here's what it's about. Hope to hear back from you. Don't be afraid to do that. You can then email them again. It doesn't matter, because if they're not answering, it's a no anyway. And there's no rule of thumb here. It's not like when we are getting in front of clients that, we don't want to be needy or creepy. In this line, you're pushing. It's pushing energy. Still with the area of service, but get in front of them. Squeaky wheel concept. Marissa, what were you going to ask?
Yeah, this is tactical, but when you're pitching, are you pitching the full article, like ready to be published, assuming that they want it, or are you pitching a shorter, like?
Great question. Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes to both. It can be either. So sometimes if you want to float your topic first, you can do that, but then they're going to say, send me the article. So I would always have it written. What I tend to do, and what worked all the years that I was in media, and I always went against the grain. I didn't pitch like the other publicists who you wait and there's a whole process. I just pushed. What you want to do is send a quick pitch with the problem solution. Hey, this is what's happening in the world. This is why you need this article. Here are other topics that I can answer questions on. You always want to do that just so that they know that's where your mind map's going to come into play. Here are some other things that I can answer questions on, and then copy and paste the article. Do not send attachments. It ends up in spam. And I just say article for your review. Please let me know if you'd like to use all or a piece of it. Because sometimes they just want like a blurb, or sometimes it sparks something for them that they want to write about, and then they use you as an expert. And all is fine. Now, when we think about exclusives, some publications will say that they want an exclusive. Let's say that you already put it on your website, just take it down. No problem. If you put it on LinkedIn, no problem, just take it down. The other way to quickly make something an exclusive is suddenly you have 5 tips and not 3. Or there's one main tip, or you rearrange paragraphs. It's fine. It's still an exclusive. So don't get too jacked up on the waiting. Oh, I'm waiting to hear back from this publication. You can pitch 50 at a time. It's no problem. This is what publicists do. They often pitch far more than 50 at a time. And then you wait. And you're taking whoever will place it. And then when they say exclusive, you change some things to make it an exclusive. No problem. Yeah. Is that sparking any questions for you or comments?
I mean, that 50 number is kind of blowing my mind because I couldn't even name 50 publications probably. I mean, I could, a feet to the fire. And I've worked in media companies before where like in industries that would not be relevant, I can come up with it. But from a coaching perspective, what do you think is like a reasonable pool of like outlets that we should be thinking of? Are we in the like dozens? Are we in the handful? I know there's no right answer, but like
it depends. And I know the 50 number does seem like it would blow your mind. The reason that it can be 50 is there are companies that's the whole job, and you run a press list. And so they find all of these nuances, and you decide, do you want it national? Do you want it local? Do you want it regional? And so it will pull for that. But for you doing this on your own without a PR company, I would say go for 12. Go for 12. It's a great number. You will probably get picked up. Chicago Tribune picks up a lot. They pick up a lot for their online publication if you have something good to share. Redbook, they pick up a lot. Good, so that's the other thing too, is we're lifestyle. Most of the time, our coaching practice will be considered lifestyle. The advice that we have is usually considered lifestyle. Sometimes it's career. That's the other way that you can go. Sometimes health and fitness if you have, an expertise in that. But typically we fall under the lifestyle category. So you can even just Google lifestyle publications. And the other thing that you can do is, let's say that you'd like to be on your local news, or that you feel there's a timely topic. You just pitch yourself as an expert, and you say, and you watch the headlines for this of what the news is talking about. If there are a lot of people depressed about COVID, or it's only being talked about COVID, you pitch yourself as someone who is going to talk about the mind and the narrative and the negative stories that the mind says, and how can you switch that thinking in times of crisis. They'll pick it up. You'll get 5 minutes, maybe 3. And you do it like this now because no one goes into the studio. It's so easy. And that you just need to find the news desk and write, again, a good pitch that is very timely of why they should talk to you. Questions? Adam, you have anything? Okay. Go ahead, Christy.
I just wanted to add, if Marissa or anybody listening doesn't know where to start, you can literally Google top publications for lifestyle and you can get a whole list. People love writing list posts, so there's plenty out there. You can see some that are, like you said, regional or even national, and it gives you an entire list and you can run through them and see if there's any ones that pop out to you.
Yep. Okay, here's the other part. When you are pitching, you do want to pump up your bio. Okay, so this is where it's not enough just to say coach. Whatever else you have, say it. And this isn't the, this isn't the one where I say things like, mom of 2 kids and lives in Sherman Oaks. That's nice. And it's true, but this is where I'm like master certified coach, creator of coaching programs, instructor here, you really lay it on. Don't worry about if some of your accolades don't exactly match what you're pitching. You just have to have them. You just have to have them, and it's good enough. So really the thing here is to think about, what do you love to talk about? What is so exciting to you? What are the things that if clients started coming to you because of it, because they heard you, you'd be glad to coach them on these topics, and be willing to let the list grow. When I started this and I was speaking and doing a lot of writing, I did a ton of lifestyle. I did a ton on specializing on mindset, inner critic. That's a great one. It's always a timely topic for inner critic. I did a lot of that. I did a lot of teaching on that. Some of my programs even got into Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and I just tweaked it for that audience, but it was the same tips that I had written about that were in articles. So that's a good way. The other thing too is if you decide that you're going to have your own newsletter and your own blog, when editors see that you already are a writer and that this is not necessarily your first article, it can be your first article, but that it's not necessarily, they're more likely to pick you up as well. So we've covered some of the basics about becoming, expert-like and expert light until you really reach the next level. Things that can do that to our books, one good speaking gig, a TED Talk, something that you put on YouTube and you get your own following. Much of becoming an expert too is just deciding that you're an expert. That's really the other trick. When I would media coach for people and help them with their PR, and many executives are like, I don't know, why should I be the one talking about it? It's like, because you're the guy in the suit and someone at your company you have a great headshot, it's you. You're articulate. You're going to do it. That's it. You just decide. And if you own it in your wording, you're the expert. That's all. That's all. So don't worry too much about, do you have all of the knowledge in the whole category of whatever you're talking about? You don't have to. 3 nuggets. Just start there. Okay. Other questions?
I have another one, but Adam, go if you have one. Okay. I'm wondering how to convert the press and activity into work and into clients. I get that some, and would hope that some is like organic and it helps build your credibility and you have it on your website. And so there's like the softer, organic, natural growth.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any tips on how to kind of accelerate or maximize how being out there can then turn into monetized actions in your business?
Yeah. So this is great. If you have been picked up by some publication that you think is great, San Francisco Chronicle, whatever it might be, you want to send that out to your clients. That's the other piece of it. So anytime you get a piece of PR, you want to put that on your LinkedIn and show, you just had this happen, Marissa, with your own interview that happened. You always want to showcase it. And what happens then, yes, that's a softer approach, but when it comes to organizations and getting in front of them, you get to say things like, I was recently featured in. And recently featured in is very important. And especially to the person in human resources who's looking, they're like, oh, that sounds good. So recently featured will always help you to win another job. Okay. We did this kind of quick fire. Anything else that you are curious about? I really appreciate your questions and the way that you're thinking about this as well, because sometimes what happens for people is they get tripped up with their own version of imposter syndrome and their own version of, well, people like me don't get published in places, and people like you do all the time. Now, I get asked a lot, do you need to have a publicist? Sometimes you do. You starting out, though, do not. If it ends up at some point that you have a book or a bigger message that you would really like to get out into the world, then yes, you would 100% possibly decide that you want to work with a publicist because they have a greater reach and they have the connections. But when you're doing it, shoestring in a sense on your own, don't worry about not knowing the ins and outs. It really is what I've just told you. And I do have a visibility checklist sheet that I'm going to talk about in a minute that can be helpful too for anyone out there who is trying to get themselves out and in front of the media. Before I get to that question, Marissa, go ahead.
I'm going to try to extract the most value that I can out of having you.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. When you, at the phase that we're at, or I'll make the assumption for me, the phase that I'm at early on, I'm assuming that I'm doing all of this type of work for free, knowing that it will come back in value and credibility. I'm wondering at some point or in certain circumstances, when does press become something that we should be compensated for? Or do you find like this part of the business, you're doing it for free and getting the value back in other ways?
So this is a great question. Most of the time it's free. That although when you are a speaker for a corporation, you will get paid for that unless they tell you that they won't, but you would really like to get in front of their group, then that's a different thing. Just make sure you can pitch yourself at the end. There's a lot of ways to look at the compensation. PR is always better than advertising because it's that somebody chose you instead of you taking out an ad, and it feels more important. That right there gains trust and hopefully gets you some of that credibility and clientele. Most of the time, writing is free or it's very low paid, very, very low paid. I remember I was writing a column for, maybe it was the Desert Palm or something like that. I was their advice columnist for about a year. And I think they paid me $75 a column. Well, I would have done it for free. I was doing it for free basically, but there's not a big budget there unless you're a celebrity or one of those sorts of things. And you have this great big following on social media and it will drive customers and, that sort of thing, readers to their sites. But in the beginning, you will probably not earn a penny from it, from them paying you. It will be the clients that come through because of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you consider speaking at events similar to this? Not necessarily big on compensation, but just generally like how you pitch, researching, someone's doing whatever, a wellness event, and they have a variety of speakers. Do you think about pitching yourself in the same way as the press? Yeah.
Yep, exact same way. Always a problem, always solution, and the reason that you're the best person to do it. And to think of that too, if you are, speaking at different organizations, events, real estate offices, whatever it might be, where someone says, hey, come and talk to my team. If they don't, for whatever reason, even want to pay you a stipend, then make sure that it's like, great, but then at the end, can I tell them about my program? Or may I follow up with them directly through email? That's the best way to do that. The speaking is good, even if it is free, because it's practice for you to really nail what it is that you want to be known for. So it's just the other part of it as well. And the better you get at it, it seems that the money starts to follow with that as well, depending on your messaging.
Where do you see people? Go, Adam.
Go ahead.
Go. No, I'm not going to talk right now.
Adam, it's your turn.
How important, so I'm thinking written media, how important is it to go back to those college writing days where you figure out how to put everything in a as seen and like quoting numbers and stuff like that, throwing out the correct way to do bibliography or whatever that stuff's called.
Yeah, all of the way that you're going to cite it.
Citations, there we go.
Yeah, here's what's better. In your articles, you really want to keep it that you're not using a ton of citations. And if you do, you can say, recently noted in Harvard Business Review, 1 out of 10 people, whatever, that's fine. And then if the editor wants to use that, they either fact check it themselves or they ask you to send it. But you don't have to worry about how you're going to cite it because you'd probably only have one reference.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Adam, for you with what you're writing, although I wouldn't really lead with being a parent, for you, for the dads group, it's a big, new that you're a father of a newborn. It's great. And it makes perfect sense, because if you weren't, why would I ever join your group? Right. And so that for you, that will work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And Marissa, did you have another question?
Of course I did.
Ask it.
Where do you see people screwing this up? Like, you're making it sound easy, which is great, as you do, because you're wise. When you're seeing people start off, or when you started off, like, what are the traps or minefields, or like where people tend to get this a little wrong?
There are so many to count. Okay. The first one is selling yourself in the article, where it's like, when people work with me, they're happier and they make more money. And it's an infomercial. No infomercial. And it's amazing how many times I have schooled people on that, clients, especially when I was publicist, and they just really want it this other way. You will not get picked up. You just won't. You have to pay for that. That's called advertising. And if you want that, there's nothing wrong with it, but pay for it. And you'll get placed exactly whatever the thing is that you want to say. For it to be authentic and helpful for readers or listeners, viewers, it has to be something that's not paid for. So that's the main area. The other thing is lying. Just complete lying. It's okay to have a little BS, that's fine. But like a full lie where you've made up some statistic that's not true, or you've said that you know something that you don't, you will get interviewed. They will ask a follow-up question if it looks suspicious. You tell them you have a training that you don't have or a degree that you don't have. There is just no need for that. And people do that out of fear that they won't get picked up otherwise. But that is a no-no. I have seen time and time again when companies, organizations, executives, individuals have, really made a foul play in stretching and beyond stretching, not even just the little stretch, but like stretching what they know to make it sound different, or even stealing it from something that they found on the internet. Come on, people find that. There was one person, he wrote an article and it was published. He got in a lot of trouble because he plagiarized more than half of it from like a different publication, and the editors and the chief of staff all had to get involved, but that happens. So that's a big no-no. That's a pitfall. And then the other part too is letting their imposter syndrome get in the way, and the perfectionism that they have to know all of the things, the vastness of the topic, when you really don't, if you're not pretending that you know all of it. Those are the main ones. And then poor writing. If your writing's terrible, or trying to boss the editor around, that's not okay. This happens all the time where you're like, I expect to see this in print. I've seen all sorts of things where it's just like, wow. So some of it's common sense, but since I'm talking about, it's probably not that common. Those are the pitfalls. Good questions. Any follow-up questions? Okay, Marissa, you have anything else?
Is there a overdoing it? Like, one of the things that is coming into my mind is sometimes there's like work that we have as coaches that like isn't real work, like rewriting words on your website. It's like, okay, no, like go get clients and serve your clients. So this to me is like a little bit of like the gray area of like, it's not serving and helping clients, and it's not immediate client creation, though it can be client creation later. But I also see it as like something to be kept a bit contained, so you're not dedicating so much time to it. So yeah, I just wonder like what's kind of the upper limit on this.
Yeah,
in terms of either time or I don't know.
This is something that would be different for everyone. If you want a lot of speaking opportunities, then getting out there really does make sense. Pitching corporations, that would be part of your job for the client creation. And you can look at it like that. Many times it's great just to work on it until you have 3 to 5 articles, just to put on your site, just to have it down at the, bottom so that they're there, or enough on your press page. But if you want to be someone who is really sought after as an expert, the more press, the better. It really does help with perception. And so only you know how much time you would want. For people that already have their phone ringing and those sorts of things, you have a very good client roster. It might just be fun then to add this. It's not even necessarily to create clients, or maybe you're looking to up level your level of service and the level of pay that you receive. This helps in those areas, but it never replaces the direct connection that you're going to have with an individual client. And where it does do services, you're going to write something that's of real value. That's the other part here, is that you don't want to write fluff. That's one of the mistakes that people make. It needs to be of real value, because the pages, even though now it's kind of infinite on websites of what you can place, they still need to be important, because the publication's reputation is also on the line. Okay, so for the viewers who are watching, after the fact, this was a snippet from my Stairway to Six program, Client Enrollment to the Close. The program is going to be launching for the 2022 module and group in January. It's going to be very exciting, and it was recently approved by the International Coach Federation for continuing education credits. Woo! So if any of you are trying to fulfill your continuing education credits, this program will not only help you do that, but will also help you to really figure out different ways to build a successful and sustainable practice without being creepy or needy, and in a way that makes your clients feel served instead of sold. And that's really what I focus on during the program as well, is how do we help people along their journey to self-discovery from the very first moment that they have contact with you? What are the breadcrumbs that you want to leave? We're going to talk about your systems. We're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about packaging. But most importantly, we're going to talk about who you're being, what needs to shift here so that you're confident enough in your client creation, and you're going to learn the art of slowing down. I have a web series that's coming up. Christy, can you drop that in the chat? And it will also be somewhere that you can find it as well. Christy will figure it out. Where you can come to my web series. It's going to be much like this. It's going to be snippets from the actual Stairway to Six program. There's no fee for that. There are 5 of them. You can come to all of them and not join the program. You can come to all of them and join the program. But I really want you to experience it prior to signing on. And then for anyone who is listening to this as well, if you do decide that you'd like to fill out an application to be able to become a part of the program, if you do that by Monday, you get the visibility checklist that we talked about here that will help you with the public relations and how to become an expert in the field. Christy, did I miss anything? Got it? Okay. Marissa and Adam, does anyone have a question before we close? All right. And Adam is a past Stairway to Six participant. Adam, I'm totally putting you on the spot, but do you want to give a little thing about the program since you were in it?
Yeah, it was an awesome program. I really appreciated. One of the biggest things for me was the sense of community within the group. Being able to have buddy coaches throughout the sessions to be able to practice what we learn, hold each other accountable. That was a huge opportunity. Just having a different topic of the month that we were able to have actionable takeaways on. Really great program. The participation was great. Smallish group, which gave everybody an opportunity to speak up and just really interact as a whole. The breakouts, getting to know new coaches, all around 100%. I thought it was an amazing group, and a lot of fun that you built into, which was pretty awesome.
Thank you. We did have fun. That singing was really fun.
That was ridiculous. Yeah.
That was a good time. We pulled it off online. So thank you for that, Adam. You know, what Adam is talking about is the program goes over a 6-month period. We have a kickoff day and a closeout day that are both between 7 and 8 hours. And then each month there's 2 sessions. We have guest speakers. We drop into your money story. We take a look at, you know, again, the client creation. That's really what the entire program is based on. But there is a lot of fun. There is a lot of fun that we sprinkled throughout. So I'm glad that you like that, Adam. And then there's smaller community as well. The group was capped last year at 30. And you get a chance to be able to coach with people within the group because you all have a different wealth of knowledge and style. And I really do believe that there is power in group learning. And then depending on, you know, when people decide to sign up, there's some individual sessions that you can be privy to as well. So that's going to wrap it up for tonight, everybody. Thank you for coming. So great to be with you all. And I look forward to the next First Wednesdays.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks-
much.
Thanks,
Thank
Gretchen. Thanks,
you.
Christy.
Yeah,
Have a good one.
you too. Have a good one.
Bye, you too.